after the invasion of Afghanistan, should the Taliban have been involved in it?
No, probably not.
Exactly. The people that have your mindset. Exactly.
No, because you're not talking to a historical ignoramus. You're not talking to some 50 IQ.
And why are you going against everyone who was involved and said by not having them involved? By not having them involved. The people who held the Bonn conference said we fucked up by not having them involved.
It's a real simple question tonight that we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. How far should the United States go to keep Iran from becoming a nuclear-armed state, to keep them from getting a nuclear bomb? Do we trust the intelligence showing that they are working towards it? Or do we trust Tulsi Gabbard, who says that they are not, right? We are having conflicting reports. If we are to intervene, how much should we intervene? All these questions and more. Okay, man, the myth and the legend's here with us today, but we're going to start, ladies and gentlemen, with Pathfinder J. Give us what you got.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having me on. My name is Jay. My YouTube channel is Pathfinder415. My position is pretty simple. I believe that under no circumstances should the current government of Iran be allowed to possess a nuclear arsenal in any form. While I believe that the nuclear deal that was negotiated by Obama was the most desirable outcome, Trump ended that deal, as we know, and we have to operate with, the reality that we live in. Iran is almost certainly working towards a nuclear weapon, and as regrettable as it may be, at this point, the only two options, as far as I can tell, are the theocracy having a nuke and regime change. And unless there's some secret third option, then those are the choices that we have, and of those two, I choose regime change.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. We'll get you as you go. We saw you for a minute there, Noah, but then you disappeared again. But thank you for being here. Okay, Lycan, what you got?
Yeah, so nothing I say tonight is going to be there to heap praise on Iran or excuse state sponsorship of terrorism. But Iran has demonstrated many times over that diplomacy is possible, and that many people on this panel, the broader public, those in chat, I don't think really know Iran's history. So if you get your perception from the media headlines, clips on TV for the last 25 years, sure, you're going to think that Iran is on a death spiral down to a nuclear weapon so they can destroy the Middle East, the United States, and Israel. But at the end of the day, this is just factually untrue. So we're going to talk today about the history of Iran's nuclear policies, the history of Iranian-U.S. diplomacy, and the fact of the matter is that regime change, it doesn't go well, especially when it's done by force or covert action through outside parties, and especially so in the Middle East. We are still dealing with the ramifications today. Just now in Syria, reports are coming out that ISIS is back on the move, and cells are starting to activate within Syria after the fall of Assad. So while many of us will be very happy that Assad is gone and that Syria is working towards reform, we stand today still dealing with the ramifications of that, and that when it comes to Iran, those will be very, very significant as we deal with the fallout from that. So I'm here to say that we should not take any sort of interventionist actions, and that diplomacy is very much still on the table. And I look forward to chatting with everyone and telling y'all why you're wrong.
Okay, it'll be fun. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Counterpoints. Conor, what do you got, sir?
Yeah. Do you know how refreshing it is to not to be the most imperialist person on the panel? It's so nice to have Pathfinder here. Thank you, Pathfinder. So he asked if he was asking if there was an alternative. Yeah, I think there's an alternative. It's one that's been proposed by the Trump admin, as much as I find it hypocritical and silly, considering they're the candidates of peace. I do think that a limited strike could work. So we do have technology in order to bust bunkers, so to speak. So if that was possible in order to delay a nuclear option, I don't want to take that off of the table. If that could delay Iran, however you want to pronounce it, getting a bomb. And then also, I think that we should go back to the nuclear deal. I think it is disappointing that Trump took that off the table. I think that's the aim that we should get to. I also understand Israel's mistrust of Iran, where just signing a piece of paper saying that they're going to comply with a limited enrichment program doesn't mean that they're actually going to follow through on it. And so making sure that we can actually follow through on a new Iran deal style negotiation would be fantastic. So limited strike is still on the table. Regime change should be grassroots. I don't think that we need a boots on the ground regime change. I think it should come from the Iranian people. And I could yap for another 5 minutes, but I won't. I'll save it for the panel.
Okay, yeah, we'll get into it as we go. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Next up, we got No Opinion. Noah, what are your thoughts here? Iran, do we go in? Do we stay out? What do you think?
Well, I'm kind of against us going in. I think on one hand, is Israel, like Iran had been like sending guys to attack Israel for a while, and then when Israel fought Hezbollah, Iran did lob some missiles at them. On the other, kind of ineffectually. And on the other hand, Israel did start this war. Like Israel, they attacked first. At least in this round, they, majorly escalated and have been, sending fairly large amounts of stuff to blow up Iran's nuclear program, I guess, or maybe do like regime change, maybe, kill the top guys. I don't feel like America has, I wouldn't want, I don't want Iran to get nukes. I think that's not good. I'm a bit of a hypocrite here. I'm for controlled nuclear proliferation. I just think Iran's not a good candidate for it. I think like South Korea, Poland, Japan should get nukes. But so maybe I'm a hypocrite there, just saying like I think these countries should get nukes and these countries shouldn't. But yeah, like I don't know. I don't see why we're needed to get in this war. I don't really. But then again, I'm not really an expert. Like I've heard some people say, with Israel needs like this big bunker buster bomb that only we have, or else they can't take out this one nuclear enrichment site at Fordow. That's how that's pronounced. And then on the other hand, Israel said that if we don't give them the bunker buster bomb, they'll use humans, which I assume means they've got a railgun accelerating humans to relativistic speeds and gonna just no, I don't know. I think they're just gonna send in guys. I don't know what they're gonna do, but the point is that like not too many Israelis or Iranians seem to be getting killed at this point. Like, I think it's a couple hundred Iranians and a couple dozen Israelis. It's like not really that big of a war yet. And it doesn't seem like it's going to send the Middle East up in flames and on oil prices, we're hedged really. Like it doesn't matter to our economy much whether oil prices go up or down because, we produce oil and we about as much as we consume. So like, honestly, I don't think I don't see a compelling reason for us to get involved. I mean, like, the burden of proof is on people who think that if we don't get involved, like there'll be an imminent Iranian nuclear bomb. If you can prove that to me, I'm not an expert, so if you can prove that to me, fine, okay, maybe then let's think about it. If that's not the case, I don't see any rationale for getting involved here. Not our fight, not our circus, not our monkeys, as they say.
Okay.
I am not an anti-interventionist. I do not think America is an evil empire, but I also think that like our fundamental interests in the Middle East are pretty slim, pretty, thin on the ground.
Understood.
Honestly, at this point.
Understood. No. Okay. So if we can prove that there's a nuclear bomb, Noah's in. If we can't, Noah's out.
No, not necessarily, but I'll think about it. You'll think about it.
Got you. Okay. Last but certainly not least, non-smoker. What are your thoughts? Do we go in? Do we stay out?
No. We stay out. Yeah, in my opinion. I mean, I do think the U.S. is an evil empire. Yeah, I think that history kind of bears that out. I think we've done more harm than good in the name of regime change. I think regime change has been like a pretty consistent foreign policy stance in the U.S. since really the end of World War II. It's not to say that it's never been successful in replacing regimes, but I would argue it's been more unsuccessful than successful in replacing regimes with something that's objectively better. I think the U.S. should absolutely not be involved. It's actually the definition of escalating a conflict, which needs to be de-escalated to preserve human life. I do think Israel provoked the conflict, whether you want to talk about them attacking first or just the years and years of urging by Netanyahu and others within Israel to strike Iran imminently because they're about to have a nuke any day now. We're serious this time. It's going to happen. They're about to launch it. Oh my God. I also think Trump and the U.S. in general are complicit for some of the same reasons I outlined with what I said about Netanyahu. We've been threatening the Iranians for years. We've been engaging, actually, in soft power attempts to initiate regime change there, concurrently with trying to make diplomatic overtures, sending mixed signals is what I would call it. Of course, they have no reason to trust us. I also think one thing that nobody really touched on, and I'm obviously not a military expert, is that us going into Iran and just initiating regime change by force is a lot easier to say than do. I think Iran is an incredibly complicated place geographically, let alone they're a serious military power, as exemplified by their use of ballistic missiles, striking Israel pretty much every day. I think that, the U.S., which is struggling to stop a renegade group of militants in Yemen from shooting like bottle rockets at ships once every couple weeks, the arrogance that we have to say, well, we could just go into Iran, smash things, destroy everything, and overthrow the regime, easy peasy. I don't think it's that simple. So, yeah, I mean, this is a very complicated topic. Looking forward to discussing with this fine group of gentlemen.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to doing it as well. With that, let's open the floor. Let's get some discussion going. Jay, you seem to have the strongest stance of regime change here being inevitable. Sell it to us, and then again, it's an open discussion so people can interrupt, talk to you, ask questions,
Sure.
etc. Go ahead.
For sure. Well, I would say that the biggest thing to keep in mind with regime change is that I'm not necessarily advocating for like boots on the ground U.S. troops inside Tehran, like, storming the palace and stuff like that. But I do think that there are sufficient ways that through like air power, through sea power, as well as through economic means that we can sort of force popular uprising. Richard Hanania actually just published a really good article about this not too long ago, which I can go into more detail if you'd like. But I want to get into what Noah was just talking about the potential for an imminent threat of a nuclear warhead. And I think that a lot of people have PTSD from the Iraq War, and that makes people very concerned about the legitimacy of nuclear warhead claims. And there are definitely some notable differences in Iran's case than in Iraq's case. For one, the IAEA, which is the International Atomic Energy Agency and the like nuclear organ of the United Nations, they have inspectors, or had inspectors anyway, that would go into Iran, and they estimate that Iran enriches uranium up to about 60% purity. And for reference, I'm not a nuclear scientist, but I believe these numbers are accurate. For civilian use, for like powering cities, you only need to enrich uranium to 3 to 4%. After 20%, you've crossed the threshold for nuclear weapons. So going into 60% is obviously completely unnecessary for any civilian use. Furthermore, they have 9 tons of that we know about anyway. There could be more that we don't know about of enriched uranium that is at that 60% level, which is estimated to be about enough for 9 nuclear bombs. The IAEA, in that same report, the IAEA, sorry, it's a little bit of a mouthful, estimates that if Iran wanted to, they could build a nuclear warhead in as short as 2 days. And I think the fact that Iran has been consistently locking out and increasing pressure on the IAEA inspectors in their country, it certainly, I don't know if that necessarily means that they're currently actively developing a nuclear weapon like right this very second. However, I do think that it is very suspect. And I will also say that there have been a lot of Iranian spies that have been caught abroad that have been trying to steal nuclear weapon intelligence, specifically from Europe. In the Netherlands, the Dutch caught Iranian spies trying to steal schematics for building nuclear warheads. And I think that given the fact that Iran believes that it's sort of a do or die, if they don't get a nuclear weapon, they essentially will die to Israel, which, perhaps there is some argument for that to be made. But I think it's it is certainly reasonable to assume, more so reasonable to assume, that Iran would be pursuing a nuclear weapon than it is with Iraq, because Iraq really had no reason to be doing that at that time. Whereas I do believe there is a lot of reason to assume that Iran could be doing that now. Not just circumstantial, but also, I mean, with regards to the uranium enrichment.
Where did you get that the IAEA said that they could build a weapon within 2 days?
That is from, let me see here. I have that linked. You'll have to give me just 1 second. It is from a report that they wrote. Let me see here.
Are you talking about the one that they released to the United Nations, I believe, on the 31st of May?
No, this is... Go ahead.
Yeah, just to solidify the perspective, at minimum, we have, I just Googled the 60% enrichment. That seems to be coming from an official IAEA website. And then also DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, literally just tweeted, I just looked at my phone momentarily, literally just tweeted that based off of their intel assessments, they believe that it's possible for Iran to have a bomb within a couple of weeks or months. So if you want to say 2 days is alarmism, then can we accept a few months as possible?
No, because first of all, the IAEA is
Counterpoints. Whose assessment was that? Sorry,
that was from.
That's DNI Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, yeah, Tulsi Gabbard said they could have it within a few months.
Yes.
Yeah. So
you can go to her Twitter right now.
The most recent intelligence before all of this kicked off was that they were nowhere near it. And again, that has been a repeated case. The Ayatollah has had a fatwa on nuclear weapons, saying they're anathema to Islam since 2003. And there is no evidence that they have sought to do so. The IAEA report that was released says that they can no longer see that their nuclear program is strictly a civilian nuclear program. The idea that Iran is building a weapon is not borne out in anything. 2007, 2011.
Why would you say that if they're at 60% enrichment and the civilian enrichment is at 3 to 5%?
What is documented is that Iran enriches to those levels to give them cards at the negotiating table.
Wait, hold on. What you're saying is they're not doing the thing, but they're doing the thing up to 60% as a negotiating tact.
Yes.
Wouldn't that just mean that they're developing nuclear warheads? Because that's kind of the ultimate negotiating tactic.
There is a difference between going all the way that way, which would probably actually lead to the kind of action that Iran wants to avoid. Again, like I said in my intro, Iran has shown incredible diplomatic capacity with the United States. The only reason they're enriching to these levels is because Trump pulled out of the JCPOA, and Iran has been under constant threat since then.
Okay. You're extending an incredible amount of charity to the Iranian regime.
Intelligence reports.
What's that?
It's just obvious.
I'm going off of the IAEA and intelligence.
It's just obvious. You know this.
It is
absolutely the Iranian regime.
100%. It's not just me, by the way. The IAEA agreed with that. They checked into Iran's nuclear program, and they found that Iran was keeping up with everything up until when Trump pulled out in 2018. As soon as Trump pulled out in 2018, they breached both the 300 kilogram stockpile limit and the 3.67% refinement.
Hold on. There's multiple pieces of information that you guys are forwarding.
That's very relevant to today.
No, it's totally relevant.
We wouldn't be in that position.
I want you to recognize that you're forwarding multiple pieces of information here.
He just wants to focus on
one piece of information.
No, okay. So let me walk you through it though, because I'm going to repeat back to you what you guys just said to me. Up until the Iranian deal, are we going with Iran or Iran? What are we doing?
Pick your poison, brother.
It's pronounced
I'm
Iran.
going with Iran.
Let's go with Iran Shah, land of kingdom of the Aryans.
Okay, so the Iran.
Do people know that the word Iran is actually just the word Aryan? It's the same word.
The true master race. So the Iranians. Okay, so we can all. I think even Pathfinder was saying like the nuclear deal under Obama was probably ideal because now you've backed Iran into a corner. So we all agree right there. What you've said and what I heard Lycan say is after the deal, the IAEA was effectively verifying that they were following the deal. And as far as we could see, they were following the deal as maximally as possible. Since then, though, descriptively, what you guys have said, and I think Lycan just said this a moment
I just
ago,
want to say this
is
really
he
quick, 'cause
enriched
it's
it.
gonna be-
Since the deal has been kaput, they are now enriching to 60%. So they have the capacity. You're saying they don't have the willpower to create a bomb. They don't have the desire to create a bomb, but they're doing it as a negotiating tact. Do I
Yes, and
understand
also
your perspective correctly?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, but I also want to clarify, not just to the best of their abilities, to a fucking T. IAEA report one after the other up until Trump pulled it out. The very last report was they have done everything we fucking asked, met every deadline. The only complaint they had was they could respond to our calls a little quicker. Other
You
than
guys
that,
know, okay, just to clarify, I hate Trump with every fiber of my being. So I'm not a Trump dick suck who's like, itching to go to war with Iran. Okay, that's not the thing, right? What is going on though is that I think that descriptively, you guys are assuming on faith that Iran doesn't have a desire to have a bomb. And what Pathfinder and I are saying is that if you're at 60% enrichment, then you have the capacity to get to a bomb within a few weeks or months, which is confirmed by our intelligence agencies.
no. First of all, I will say this. We've all seen the Trump sycophancy and the way this administration works. We've seen the way that people step out of line and get fucking reeled back in. As a non-official governmental but relevant example, with the fucking Elon Musk fallout and then him coming crawling back to daddy, right? So the other day, like just yesterday or some shit, fucking Tulsi Gabbard or Trump gets called out and says, "Hey, your fucking DNI says this ain't true, chief." And he says, "Oh, well, she's wrong." And then she fucking tweets that, "I'm sorry." When every report...
It's not just a tweet, it's video clips of her talking about it.
Sure, but point being is she comes out and makes...
also, aren't you saying that they're at 60%?
No, hold on. That they're at... I'm sorry, maybe I conflated something. They're at 60%, but that they're making weapons when, again, historically and modern intelligence says that they are not making weapons and not...
Hold on, please.
That's not what's being said. What's being said is they could manufacture a bomb.
Hold on. I have a question.
Wait, no, hold on. Don't derail this, Whick.
Don't derail. You're going in circles. Go ahead, please.
No, we're not going in circles. Nuclear weapon or nuclear bomb, like a nuke, a Hiroshima. What are we talking? Are we talking a dirty bomb or what? Because yes, they could go make a fucking dirty bomb right now. Are we talking about a nuke? Because when you say nuke, when people say nuclear weapon, they're not thinking dirty bombs. They're thinking Hiro-fucking-shima, right? They're thinking
what is the negotiation? Because you say that they just hit my mic. You say that they have uranium enriched at 60% just for negotiation tactics, but you're also, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you're saying, but it's also just useless, the uranium that they have. So how?
No, I'm not saying it's useless. But I am saying, but I will say that Iran, again, has up until very recently, since 2003, complied with inspectors. They have complied with regulations.
I agree.
And you know who hasn't? Israel, who went behind our backs and created a nuclear arsenal, has not signed the non-proliferation treaty. Pakistan, who we also have to contend with, who is a state sponsor of terror, who used al-Qaeda for their wars in Kashmir, who Iran, everyone likes to say, has killed soldiers in Iraq and Syria or whatever, has only killed dozens of American soldiers, where Pakistan, who gave safe harbor to the Taliban and al-Qaeda and the Haqqani network, is directly responsible for about 2,000 deaths of American soldiers.
But if you're sponsored terrorism, why would we want another Pakistan?
Because we found a way to engage with Pakistan, and it can't just be because we needed them. We can't just go selectively apply that shit. If this is so fucking serious, when our allies do not comply with nuclear treaties as well as fucking Iran does. So our casus belli for war and regime change is going to be going in for this shit. We should be bombing fucking North Korea.
I'm not going to concede this. I'm not going to concede this.
Okay, but I do have some information that might be helpful to the conversation that I want to cover, because the most recent IAEA, so the International Atomic Energy Agency, I think is the acronym here, was on the 31st of May of this year. Okay, it was declassified or de-restricted on 11th of June of this year. And from their summary, this is what they say. Oh, I had it up. Hold on. There we are. So it says that Iran's decision to remove all of the agency's equipment previously installed in Iran for JCPOA-related surveillance and monitoring activities has also had detrimental implications for the agency's ability to provide assurance of the peaceful nature of Iran's nuclear program. It has also been more than 4 years since Iran stopped provisionally applying its additional protocol. Therefore, throughout this period, Iran has not provided updated declarations, and the agency has not been able to conduct complementary access to any sites and other locations in Iran. And the significantly increased production and accumulation of highly enriched uranium by Iran, the only non-nuclear weapon state to produce such nuclear material, is of serious concern. So given that this is the most recent report, right, that we have from an agency that isn't connected, at least I don't believe, to Trump or his intelligence apparatus, if they're concerned, why shouldn't we be?
Because there's a difference between enrichment and creating a bomb. Again, when we talk bomb, yes, you can go make a dirty bomb. No one's talking about that. They're talking about fucking nukes. And again, Iran signed the non-proliferation treaty.
What are they missing? So Lycan, you're being frustrating because what are they missing? If they have a civilian rocketry program, if they have enriched uranium up to 60%, if subject matter experts within the United States government are saying that within a few weeks or a few months, they could produce a bomb, what is this missing component of technology that you are saying they are incapable of developing?
Why do you think they haven't
first of all,
produced one yet?
Me or him?
Oh, hold on. Ask again, non-smoker, please.
I'm asking Lycan
what's based on the knowledge at hand, why do you think they have not produced uranium beyond 90% yet? What do you think the reason is for that?
Well, because we could hopefully bring them back to the JCPOA and the negotiations.
Yeah, for negotiations.
Sure,
yeah, exactly.
Sure, but at the same time, but at the same time, what we're talking about is potentially them doing that and us not being able to know. So what I'm asking
intelligence
is,
they're going to. I'm answering your question. Where is the intelligence?
One step left. What's that?
I'm answering your question. It's not the step. It's not about the technology. It's where's the intelligence that they want to make a bomb, that they are trying to make a bomb, that they are going to make a bomb. Where is that?
Well, I would say probably over the past 20 or 30 years, they've had like an enriched nuclear weapons program.
No, they haven't. They stopped it in 2003.
Yes, they have. They've literally recruited a bunch of stuff.
No, hold on.
You guys are saying two different things.
Hold on.
Are we forgetting Stuxnet? Are we forgetting the assassination programs during the 2010s? What the fuck are we talking about here?
Yeah, they had killed some nuclear scientists, all right? Since 2003, they have not had it. And it has been confirmed by the United States Intelligence... No, stop, because you're not listening when I say this. The United States Intelligence Committee, the National Intelligence Assessments of 2007, 2011, multiple various random fuck reports since then, before then, have said, yeah, dog, they have not done any shit when it comes to nuclear weapons. They are not doing it, period.
Why are you extending this level of charity to the Iranian regime when
I'm going off the government? How are you saying it's charity to them?
Okay.
Why aren't you giving charity to the United States intelligence community?
Because I am an American. I work for the United States of America.
Why, hold on. So let's assume.
Why would I be endlessly charitable to my enemies when I should be endlessly charitable to my friends and my allies? What the fuck?
Charity. I'm pointing to a source of fucking the intelligence community.
And I'm telling you that there's contradictory evidence.
And the IAEA has been in there and doing inspections. Again, 2015, they didn't come and say, actually, we just started inspecting. They've got a new.
I don't like this conversation so far, which is fine. It's spicy. That's good. However, the reason why I don't like this conversation so far is because I've logically walked you up to. They have the capacity. We're not talking about intent.
I don't care about capacity.
Capacity.
The capacity is already qualified.
Capacity.
All right, let's stop capacity. Capacity. They have the capacity. Why do they have the capacity? Because they want to be able to negotiate.
Okay. So
you have to provide something else. You want to go further.
Let's work back from capacity then, since we can say that within, let's just say 60 days, they could create a nuclear device hypothetically. Let's move back to motivation then. Okay? Okay. So moving to motivation, I understand what you're saying, which is effectively, if they wanted it, they would have had it. Am I wrong in saying that that's basically your position?
If we're talking about a dirty bomb, yes.
Okay. So what I would say is, I'm not really betting the future of the United States on Iran having a bomb or Iran having a bomb.
Okay? Says because they are not an existential threat to the United States.
Even if they develop 9 nuclear warheads, I don't think like Central Florida is on their top 10.
No, hold on. Wait, again, if we're going to go to nuclear warheads, then I am going to start talking about technology and better intelligence and all that shit. If we're going to stick with dirty bombs, I'll say it's not going to do anything.
Dirty bombs still irradiate a city and kill tens of thousands of people?
Sure, it can if it can reach us. But again, our intelligence says they're not trying to do that shit.
Okay.
Why do you not
think that they should be doing like detonating?
What's that?
Why do you not trust Iran? Is it just like the fact that it's a theocracy and authoritarian? Is that the main reason? Well, what about Saudi Arabia? Do you trust them?
Saudi Arabia is tied to our economy. They are interested in being our allies. They've also said the reasons why
Do you
they
think
don't want
Iran
to
is not
nukes
interested
because
in
the
being
United
tied
States
to the
has
global
nukes and will
economy?
back
That's
them.
why they don't want sanctions, which is why they signed on to the JCPOA to begin with.
Sorry, you're saying is Iran acting in its natural self-interest?
I
Is
think
that
Iran has economic interests just like any country. So the
and their
reason that they
economic
signed
interests
on
are
to the
also tied
JC,
to
the reason
dystopian shitholes
I
like
think
China
the
and
reason you're
Russia.
not hearing people is because you won't shut the fuck up. The
I'm
reason
listening.
Iran signed on to the JCPOA to begin with is they wanted to avoid sanctions so that they could have a beneficial economic relationship with the West also. So who's to say that had we not kept that agreement around and maintained this better relationship with Iran, that they couldn't also eventually integrate into our economy? Saudi Arabia wasn't always a good friend of ours either, and that changed because the economics favored them to have a better relationship with us.
Okay,
I kind of think
because
this. I think
let's give it to
NS,
Noah for a minute. Go ahead.
you're probably right, but I think that ship's probably sailed.
That's the
hasn't.
point that,
Can
that
you
I've
elaborate
been
on- hold on,
making,
just-
that ship is
true.
gone.
Just
That's a
real
different
quick,
argument.
I'm gonna have to mute people.
Well, then
after
why-
this. Noah,
Okay.
why has it sailed? Can you elaborate on that?
I mean, we killed Soleimani. We did that. We did, blew up some other Iranian stuff. I think that like now, but not just that, the reason Iran wants a nuclear bomb, and if I were them, I'd want a nuclear bomb for sure. Like the reason why, I mean, like it's only rational for them to want a nuclear bomb. The reason they want a nuclear bomb is to fight Israel, maybe to blow up Israel, but definitely to deter Israel from blowing them up, as Israel is currently doing. I think that the case, after what we've seen with this war, the vulnerability that Iran has in conventional weapons, there's not like. To me, if I were in charge of Iran, I would be like, okay, whatever the America would give us, in this deal, whatever they were going to give us in 2017 or 18 or whenever, we're not going back to that because now we see what Israel's willing to fly over and do to us. And nukes are the only thing that can deter that.
That is, first of all, at the very least, you're talking about deterrence more so than aggression, because the history.
Yeah, no, I don't think they want to start a nuclear war. I don't think they're nuts like that. But if I were them, I'd want a nuclear bomb right now because I'd be like, holy shit, look what happens when we don't have a nuke. So like at this point, I would not make a deal that would involve me not getting a nuke if I were them.
And that would be reasonable, except, so first, again, I'll repeat, and this isn't meant condescending, like, let me repeat myself, but like, again, intelligence has shown that they don't want to get a nuclear bomb. They don't have a program to get a nuclear bomb. They're not working towards it. The enrichment of uranium does not equate to making a bomb. It is, again, intelligence. Hold on, wait, I'm going to finish my point. I'm saying
it's I do it.
Wait, hold on, dude. Let's say that literally in a fucking shell, you just take some duct tape and you strap on a big fucking Coke bottle full of uranium, and then when it explodes, that's how you make the dirty bomb. I don't know, by the way, FBI, I'm sorry for saying that out loud. I don't know if that was right. But
we're gonna have to edit this part out, but go ahead.
You fucking do that, right? Let's say it is that. Again, there is no intelligence that has ever said that they want to fucking do that. And so what I want, hold on, let me finish.
I'm going to narrow my question. I want to narrow my question.
Go ahead.
Let's just say, let's not talk about motivation. Let's just talk about technology. Okay.
I don't care. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't care if they can do it, because let's say that they could do it right now. I do not care.
But you keep saying that they can't.
No.
So don't make that assertion.
They can't make a nuclear warhead. They cannot make a nuclear warhead. But I'm saying if they can make a
Why
dirty
are you
bomb,
saying that?
I don't care if they can.
Okay, then don't say that they can't. Say that you don't care that they can or cannot.
I am saying that it's intent. There is no intelligence that they have an intent to.
Okay. And what I am telling you, which is frustrating me in this conversation, because I feel like if you listen to me, you can understand what the fuck I'm saying, is that they have 60% enriched uranium. They have a rocketry program.
Yes.
Ignore intent for 30 seconds. You keep saying that they cannot do this. They cannot build a nuclear warhead. And I'm asking you, if they have a sophisticated rocketry program, and if they can enrich uranium to 90-95%, then what is the missing component where you keep saying that they can't do it?
No,
Not that they don't
you're
want
not listening to me, because I'm not. You're not listening to me, because literally in the last time when I responded to you, I literally said they could make the fucking dirty bomb. They can do it. They can do it. They can do it.
No,
Connor,
not dirty bomb.
Okay, yeah.
Not dirty
Hold
bomb.
on. Connor's talking about nuclear warheads.
They cannot. They cannot make a nuclear warhead. They do not have the technology.
Why are
They
you
do not have
saying
the
that?
program. Because the intelligence has said that they do not have a program. It would take a long fucking time for them to build it. They have not been working on it.
I am literally at.
You
I'm
wait,
literally
hold on.
asking you.
Wait, I'm
they
sorry.
have two
Where's the
pieces
panel?
necessary to build a nuclear bomb. What is the component
there's a
that's
whole bunch
missing
of-
that you're
there's a whole
saying?
bunch of other shit. The fucking when you build a nuclear bomb, you enrich the fucking uranium. You need the heavy water and all this other fucking shit. You enrich.
They
to a
have that
certain
part.
point. Hold on. No, you need to get it up a lot fucking higher than 60, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong.
You
I
gotta
will
get it
admit
to
that.
like 90
I'm sure you gotta
anyway.
get
to 95, which
90.
they have the capacity
Exactly.
to do so.
So they have the capacity to get it to that point. They haven't yet done it yet, which I think you acknowledge, or at least the guy down in the corner in the red shirt acknowledged. Sorry, I
According
can't
to the
remember
most
your name.
recent intel, but the
And-
intelligence agency
Hold on.
says that they can do it within
Hold on,
60 days.
I'm drawing the whole picture for you, bud. So they
I'm listening.
fucking, let's say they go ahead and fucking do that. You then have to create the trigger, right? Because it's not just you put the thing in a bomb, whatever. There is a certain amount of fucking explosive design that you have to do so that it triggers and makes all those atoms fucking at the right time, right? There's a.
You're talking about.
And you're saying
centrifuge,
Iran
right?
is not capable of doing that?
I would like to interject just real quick and just
I'm
say
pretty
that
sure
in
they're
this
capable.
I'm not saying they
IA,
aren't capable.
hold on.
I'm
I would
saying
like
they
to-
hold on,
have the
hold
weapons
on.
program.
Hold
I'll
on.
Google it.
Pathfinder wants in. He's been a very good boy. We're gonna give him treats.
Thank
Here's
you,
the mic.
thank you.
Go
I
ahead, Pat.
have a hard time interrupting people, so
Elbows.
I would just like to note that in this IAEA report, which it seems like we're all pretty much in consensus is a legitimate piece of evidence to discuss here, they say, quote, Iran's nuclear weaponization program is steadily making progress out of sight of the inspectors and the world. That is the most recent.
That's
piece
weaponizing
of-
uranium. That is not weaponized.
That's not what it says. It says Iran's nuclear weaponization program. It's a program
Use
for
the
the
word
weaponization.
like, and he's kind of got
It's
you.
very clear. It's very
No,
clear.
no,
Well,
weaponization. Yes, it is.
They would
Weaponization.
Said the word
specify that it's
weaponization.
just
That's not
uranium
unclear.
because later on in the report, they do go out of their way to specify when it's uranium. There is one other thing. We can get back to this in a second, but there is one other thing that I want to go back to real quick, which is something that Noah brought up, which is if I were Iran, I would want a nuclear weapon right now. And I agree. If I was in Iran's position, I would absolutely want a nuclear weapon right now too. So I think it's. I hope that we all agree that that's common sense.
I don't know if they still.
No,
do.
I don't.
You don't agree that right now Iran would want
No,
a
I
nuclear
think
weapon?
that they've actually made multiple overtures at this point to try and sit down for negotiations. In fact, they talked today. And I think what came out of that was like a demand for a move towards zero enrichment, which Iran refuses. It's a non-starter for them.
Yeah, but didn't they also demand that the Israelis give up all of their shit as well? Wasn't that a part of the Iranian position, which is also not going to happen? You're saying they're negotiating in good faith?
I think
the Iranians are willing to negotiate not having a nuclear warhead, which is why they haven't developed one yet, despite having the technology to develop one for years. It's always been about negotiating.
And why does the IAEA report say that they are specifically currently developing a nuclear weaponization program? And again, I would like to point out that later on in the report, it goes on to differentiate just uranium and weaponization. If you want me to, I can link you the report, Lycan. But it's the word weaponization. I don't see how it gets any more specific than that.
The reason why I don't like that we keep getting hung up on this is because if you were willing to say that you don't have evidence in order to support the fact that you say that they can't do it within 60 days, we could just move past it and talk about intent. But the whole reason why I'm wrapped up on this with Pathfinder is the fact that we are saying that they are capable, not that they want to. We are saying at minimum, we need to come to some kind of descriptive consensus that they are capable of developing a tactical nuclear weapon within like 60 days, because that seems to be descriptively what everybody is saying. So if you want to talk about like will or negotiation, we can talk about that, but we're trying to get capacity nailed down.
Well, they definitely have the capacity. I mean, I have
okay,
like
we
a
have
lot
one
of
with
sources on
capacity.
that.
Does Lycan agree that there's capacity?
To make a nuclear warhead? No, I've seen no intelligence on that. And
Well, to enrich uranium
these two
past
should fight it.
90%.
Maybe we could put a pin in it.
They
but I'm
absolutely
gonna
do.
How about so Lycan and I we're not like dogs at the fence barking at each other. Why don't I just say my position and then I'll try to steel man his and then we can try to move past it, okay? So my position
is he really
yeah.
saying, sorry to interrupt, but is he really saying they can't enrich past 90%? That's like widely known thing.
Lycan, you're saying they can't?
no, I'm saying they can enrich past 90%. I'm saying they haven't.
Okay, so I'm
Right,
gonna
so they're
I'm gonna say
capable.
my steel man. I'm gonna say my steel man. My steel man is that what I'm hearing from Lycan is I feel like we can enrich to 90%, so we can have weapons grade uranium. The Iranians have a sophisticated technological base, so they should be able to create a sophisticated nuclear weapon and ballistic missiles. So they have the components. If they wanted to, if this was a meal, they could make the meal. Okay, that's what I'm saying. What I feel like Lycan is saying is that he's saying like, well, they couldn't make the meal. They could make what's the meat board with like cheese and meats and charcuterie.
I know what you're
Charcuterie.
talking about.
You could make Lycan saying they could make a nuclear charcuterie. And I'm saying, no, they could make a fucking sandwich. And we keep getting hung up on that. But I don't feel like that's the most interesting
it's really
part of the
stupid
conversation.
that you guys are stuck on this. We could move past this really quickly. They're capable of doing it. The question is, do they want to?
Sure. I would be happy to move to that.
And I just think it's really important to also point out that that there is no intelligence saying they actually have a program to do so. So they can do it. So it's like whether or not they can do it, whether or not they want to do it, and whether or not they are doing it. Those are the three pieces.
Sorry, Whick, go ahead.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We've decided they're capable. You're President Trump, right? Or if I'm President Trump, and I know that Iran, first of all, do we agree that Iran and its current state and its current regime is at least ill-inclined towards the United States and towards Israel?
No.
You don't agree with that?
Well, what do you mean?
No, because the way you mean it is the idea that them chanting "Death to America" means they want us to be fucking genocided and wiped off the fucking earth. Am I wrong?
They are.
I feel like
is that what you mean?
What I mean when I say that they are ill-inclined towards America is I mean towards our interests in the region and towards us in general, right? Our
be more
way of
specific.
life.
That's obviously true. Yeah.
Our interests in the region. Yeah, because interventionism and shit like that. Okay, I'm not mad at them for being against that.
Okay, so if they can make a nuclear weapon of any sort, whether it be dirty bomb, nuclear weapon, whether it be something that they can propel on not an ICBM, but on a cruise missile, or whether it's something they got to smuggle in and detonate, or whether it's something they drop from a plane, doesn't matter, right? If they have that, and I'm president of the United States, and I say if they have that, then that limits our options against if we want to do anything to Iran, if they go against her, if they attack our base, if they bomb a fucking ship, or if they fund money into one of their proxies, or they give the fucking bomb to one of their proxies to blow up one of our bases, right? I don't want them to do that. So I don't care what they want to right now. I don't want them to be able to do that. So why wouldn't I? Hey, here's some bunker buster bombs. Go at it. Why not?
I got this one. Because you have no reason to believe they would. Iran in the last 20 years, from everything that I can find, has never themselves done an attack as an act of aggression. It has always been an act of retaliation. They have never done that shit to a U.S. base or to fucking Israel.
But who have they funded?
Groups that
who
do.
has done?
They are fun and
It's
trained
funny
groups
you
that
bring
do.
that up. It's funny you bring that up again, and this is why at the beginning I said I will not be excusing state sponsorship of terrorism, but I said you will have to contend with the fact that we've supported Pakistan and partnered with them when they were doing the same shit. So yeah, first of all, again, dozens of people killed by Iranian-sponsored groups as far as Americans go, 2,000-ish by Pakistan, and yet we were still able to fucking work with them. So that's the first point.
No, okay, but because we're talking about like what? We're talking about Afghanistan, and then we're talking about the Middle East and North Africa. That you're comparing those two theaters of operations.
I am, yes, absolutely. I'm saying the fact that
I don't have autism, so I can compare like multiple things. So hold on. The context of this though is that Iran spends $1 billion a year, 700 million estimated on Hezbollah, and then 300 million on random friendly militias, including the Houthis and Hamas.
Mm-hmm. Why did they do that? Why did they do that?
Popular mobilization forces in Iraq too.
Because the United States fucks with their shit, because 2/3 of the world's proven oil reserves are in the Middle East and North Africa. And also Israel is a settler colonial project, quote unquote, that is fucking stabbing them in the ass with a thorn.
Yes, they act as a deterrent. And the 2019 defense. Hold on.
It's not.
The oil interests aren't going away.
I don't care about the oil
neither is
interests.
Israel.
I don't care about the oil interests. You want to talk about why they do that? It's a deterrent strategy. Both our Defense Department, our State Department, and even Israel has acknowledged that this is set up as a deterrent to make some sort of equilibrium in the region. So when Iran is constantly being threatened by Israel,
These proxies go on the offensive.
I think.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, they
October
do.
7th was an offensive. It wasn't a
they
defensive posture.
absolutely do. And so
think
one
there's
of the
another reason
reasons
they
to
do that.
one of the reasons to not decapitate Iran right now is because all the proxies that they have supported have fucking batteries and they can run on their own. So you take off Iran, you take off the group, you install someone that is going to put someone in power that is going to be aligned with the U.S. and Israel and all that other shit, and those fucking groups go off in the wind and do whatever they want. They're not getting dismantled. They're not fucking disappearing. They're going to splinter.
Anyway,
Why would they not? Why would they not dismiss?
hold on.
Well, hold on, because this is important. And I genuinely, I'm perfectly willing to accept that maybe that is true. But from my perspective, the sole supplier, financier, and organizer of these organizations, with maybe a handful of exceptions, is the government, the theocracy of Iran. So if Iran goes belly up, if the government of Iran goes belly
That's
up,
not true.
why would these
Are you
organizations?
saying
not go
all the
belly up?
proxy groups are only funded by Iran?
I'm saying that they're the overwhelming primary financier and backer of those organizations is Iran. Yes.
I mean, Iran is a major backer of all those groups, no doubt, but there's obviously like countries in the Arabian Peninsula. There's money coming from all over the place that fund those groups, and they are independent actors as well. I mean,
well, they're semi-independent
look,
actors.
the
You're talking
argument,
about
the argument that they're all kind of
finish up, then we're going to give it to Noah, then we're going to give it to
The Houthis are Iran's only real effective proxy left in the region. The Iraqi militias that they try to sponsor don't really do much, and Iraq doesn't really help Iran at all. Hezbollah has been essentially defeated. Hamas never could really do that much and has now been essentially defeated. Like, there's not many Iranian.
This is true, bud.
I mean, people were saying the same thing. People were saying the same thing about ISIS. People were saying the same thing about ISIS, and ISIS is now coming back in Syria.
I don't want you to.
Hold on. That's not true.
Houthis are the only.
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. My
ISIS
honor
is not
has been
making a
impugned.
resurgence on like the scope and scale that it had. I understand.
Yeah, not yet. Not yet. But look at what the situation is in Syria. Hold on. Wait. Look at what led to ISIS. Look at fucking Iraq and what fucking led to that. And now what's happening in Syria is we have loyalists, sectarian violence, infighting going on right now. We have a government that's trying to go through a transition to a new phase, a new era, whatnot. We have Israel attacking certain military targets, and then we have, which again has a historical effect of destabilization, and then we have ISIS sales that were just announced on June 12th as starting to awaken. Reports are coming out about this. So yes, right now, no, they're not at that level. But what we've seen historically in this region is this type of destabilization can do that. And so you go ahead and destabilize Iran, and you sorry, let me calm down.
What is the destabilization in Syria that led to ISIS coming back? Was it the opposition winning? Is that the destabilization?
It was the fall of the Assad regime after fucking a decade plus of civil war.
Right. Okay. And
this is like having a forest fire burn through, and then you're like, oh, there's embers, and it's like, yeah, no shit, but we don't have anywhere near the fuel that we did before the forest fire.
No, because if you take out Iran, right? Iran is not capable of projecting.
Iran could be pouring gasoline on the entire situation. I agree.
Except they don't. First of all, Iran has been an adamant opposition to fucking ISIS.
No, I'm saying a collapsed Iran could create the destabilization that is effectively a new jet fuel on top of the civil war inferno of the region. Yes, that's true.
Yes, and we have every reason to believe that should we go in and drop a bomb on the Ayatollah's house, that one, the loyalists are still going to go down fighting and they're not going to stop. Two, people have been saying lately that the propaganda messages started going out immediately, like that Iran wants revolution, they want to fucking fall. No, they're fucking circling the wagons now around the government and in opposition to the attacks that are happening. Okay, so the regime's going to go down fighting. The people are going to be devastated in the war that follows. And yes, it is going to then lead to more terrorism, more groups spawning, more support for ISIS.
Neither Pathfinder nor I think any sitting politician who has used regime change has suggested Western forces going into Iran. I don't think anybody suggested that. I think the most that they've talked about is limited strikes in order to limit their nuclear capacity, and then supporting like democratic forces. And I hear you that supporting the pro-democratic forces could start a civil war that destabilizes the entire region. I hear you completely. But what I don't hear from you, and I don't hear from lefties who are critical of the war on terror, rightfully so, is that modern Iraqis prefer modern Iraq to Saddam's regime. They still blame the United States for the bloodshed that happened over the past 2 decades, but they prefer modern Iraq over the authoritarian dictatorial shithole that it was 20 years ago.
And like I said at the beginning, the Ayatollah is not Hussein. He is not Assad, right? So that doesn't excuse all of the human and civil rights issues that exist within Iran and all that stuff. But historically, first of all, let's go back to 2002. Does anyone on the panel know about the offer that was made to the United States in 2002?
By whom? You're gonna have to
be more specific.
By Iran.
2003.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
You'd have to be more specific.
I know.
So Iran offered to not only defund but dismantle actively Hezbollah, stop funding Hamas and other proxies. They offered to stop all enrichment and weapons programs and all that stuff that go beyond civil necessity. They offered to recognize Israel in a 2-state solution. They offered to continue helping. Oh, by the way, for those who don't know in the panel and the audience, by the way, Iran was one of the first countries to condemn the attacks on 9/11, and more so than our ally Pakistan in that war, was providing intelligence on Al-Qaeda, was unrestrained in their detainment of Al-Qaeda that were fleeing into Iran from Western Afghanistan. And they were the reason that
what did
Northern
Bush
Alliance
say to that offer?
Well, no, hold on. I'm going to get there. Don't worry. And then they were the reason that Afghanistan ever had a fighting fucking chance of survival. Then again, Pakistan fucking fucked it up for us, along with our own policies. But they were the reason the Northern Alliance agreed to a multi-ethnic government in Afghanistan and aligned with Karzai. That doesn't happen without fucking Iran, right? So first of all, again, that's not the heap praise on Iran. That's to point the fuck out that these people have been rational at some points in their lives with us. So then that offer gets sent through the intermediary, and fucking Cheney says, not even worth considering. And how does Iran find that out? Because our dude was sitting in the fucking room ready to have tea with the fucking dude he was going to negotiate with, and he gets pulled out of the fucking meeting and gets told, Bush just called us part of the axis of evil, walks in and says, we're done here. And that was fucking it. And yet they still fucking went and...
I can already go ahead and tell you why. Did you say this is 2002 or 2008?
It's 2003.
2003. And I'll tell you why, which I think the lefties are going to find surprisingly conciliatory. It's because Bush didn't want peace with Iran.
Exactly.
Because he knew he was going into Iraq 30 seconds later, and that there would probably be Iranian proxies who would fight us in Iran. So we can't ink a new peace deal with the neighbors of Iraq when we're probably going to be fighting in 6 months.
No, but they would have tried with us.
There's totally Machiavellian vampiric shit that happened. Like Cheney and Rumsfeld, as far as I can tell, might actually be like the manifestation of vampires in human form as close to metaphorically as possible while being real. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just super confused
And
what this has to do with the nuclear, with Iran today.
That's exactly what I want to...
The main point was that they're more rational than the Western media gives him credit for. I heard what he said. I acknowledge what he said.
It is not irrational to want a nuclear weapon. Rationality has nothing to do with this conversation.
Well, not just okay,
the passage of time
as well.
Let me speak.
It's to be open to Western engagement, but go ahead, Knox.
Non-smoker, he means. I don't know what you're
non-smoker. Oh, sorry. Okay. Again, there's no names on the thing.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So yeah, just real quick. So the Bush administration turned that deal down, and then of course within 3 years, Iran had 18 times as many centrifuges as they did in 2003. The Bush administration reached out in 2006 to try to establish another agreement. But they again demanded zero enrichment, and the Iranians said no. And by 2009, Obama's first term, Iran had over 8,000 centrifuges. And I think what I'm trying to get at here is that once again, the Iranians are demonstrating that they will pursue enrichment at greater and greater and greater levels where diplomacy fails. So therefore, the cure to them enriching uranium is probably through diplomacy, which is what the Obama administration achieved with the original Iran nuclear deal, which Trump fucked up. And that's why we're in this position. I hope that's something we can all agree on.
I don't disagree with that. I don't think anybody in this well, I guess I don't want to speak for everybody, but I don't think that anybody in this panel disagrees with that. But I think what the contention is the relevance of that now, and to what degree Iran is still willing to negotiate with the United States. Now, listen, I would love to put back on the shelf the Obama nuclear deal. I think that was a great deal. It wasn't, entirely perfect, but when you're dealing with two nations that aren't entirely friendly, it's about building.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yeah,
what do you think and none of us are like Iran experts, although we're pretending to be, but like, in your opinion, how has the calculus changed from Iran's end, like from 2003, 2006, that era, till even the first Obama administration, where they were willing to cap enrichment at use for civilian means only, nuclear power and such, 3.67%. How do you think that has changed now? Like, do you think now they're just determined we have to have a weapon and use it? Because all of the problems in the region were essentially the same then.
No, I think that what Counterpoints just said is basically the crux of the argument. Is I think that we have fucked them over too many times to make them to make them see us as a reliable negotiating party. And again, I want to emphasize, I'm not. Listen, dude, I loathe Trump more than anybody in this panel. I have terminal stage 10
thing later.
TDS,
we get it.
okay?
Everyone hates Trump. Blah blah blah.
But the point that I'm trying to make is that I'm not just trying to dick ride the United States endlessly and say we're the good guys and Iran is the supreme evil bad guys. But what I am saying is that Iran, even maybe this is crazy, but in my opinion, even with Donald Trump as horrible as he is as the president of the United States, still has moral authority over the theocracy in Iran. And I believe that there is. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Wait, can I just answer?
Hold on, isn't the answer here simple? Like, I feel like we're just dancing around it. Israel's attacking them. Israel's bombing them right now. Why would you not want a nuclear weapon so they don't bomb you again?
Well, and that's ultimately what I'm getting at. Listen, the United States and Israel have been unreliable. It's not about United. Hold on, stop,
please, stop. It's not about the United States in this equation for them. Iran and Israel have been fucking with each other for a long time, and Israel, at least under Netanyahu, at least in the last few years, especially since October 7th, has demonstrated that they want to fuck Iran up. They want to, and they can, and they've been doing it. So if I'm Iran, why wouldn't I want a nuclear weapon that can reach Israel and say...
you might want one. You might want one, but I'm not going to believe it until intelligence shows they're doing it. And when looking at that report, first of all, weaponization just means the weaponization of uranium. I have not find anything else to counter that. Not the Reuters reports or anything like that. No, wait, hold on. Again, the intelligence is that they do this. Even the IAEA says this. Is that they do this to get a bargaining chip at the table. So if the U.S. comes in and they make a new agreement and they agree to that agreement, then they're going to fucking that's going to come with an agreement that, hey, you take your dogs off us and that Israel doesn't fucking attack us anymore, right?
It's entirely possible.
The only reason that the agreement was not fucking agreed to right away is, and I don't fucking blame them, read the agreement, read what it requests of them. Trump sends that agreement along with the fucking threat of, hey, we're going to fuck your shit up if you don't agree to this. He's been doing that shit to our fucking allies. I don't know why we expect even our enemies to fucking take that bullshit. But second of all, it gives no deference to the fact that Iran has been, more so than many of our allies, in agreement with fucking international nuclear requirements, right? So they agreed and followed the JCPOA to a T. They have worked with us. They will do it again. If Trump put a reasonable deal, he wouldn't even let up on some sanctions. So if they do a reasonable deal that actually gives deference to the fact that they have worked with us before, they're ready to come to the fucking table. They were at the table when the fucking first Israeli bomb was dropped. They were at the fucking table.
I love that idea, but I don't foresee that Trump is going to do that. And this is what I said in my opening statement. Listen, I'm just trying to operate within the reality that we find ourselves in. Okay. Listen, I would much rather have a legitimate workable deal with Iran, but I think all of us know that there's 0% chance that that's going to happen with Donald Trump as president. He doesn't want
Rather
that.
have a nuclear armed Iran than an invasion of.
I don't know if
the
that's
United States.
100% either.
Hold on. Can you repeat
mean-
that? Hold on. Stop.
No, I want to. You can mark
Can you
that down,
repeat
and we can
that?
go into that as part of conversation. I want to let him say his thing because I'm
No,
happy to defend
I just
what I
want
just
you to
said.
repeat that so everyone hears
Yep,
what you
I
said.
am much more happy with a nuclear armed Iran than I am with us going in and doing regime change with boots on the ground.
That was
Same.
never my position, and that's not anybody's position in this panel.
Well, it might be
Fine.
Wick's because he seemed to want to make me say that.
All
again.
right,
Like,
well,
I'll be happy to attack that momentarily, but non-smoker has been patiently waiting, and I appreciate his patience.
Thanks.
Non-smoker.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, a couple things. One, like, I don't know if I'm 100% confident that Trump will absolutely not work out a deal with the Iranians where Israel stops attacking them and there is no nuclear weapons. I mean, I think Trump is an idiot and a buffoon, a total Iran hawk, blah, 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 blah. But, Trump has waited in terms of carrying out a strike to this point already. It's clear to me that at least in, to whatever extent we can give him some charity as a diplomat, I would say that that's an attempt at diplomacy. He may be throwing out threats. He may be saying all these boisterous things. They may be about to strike at some point, but they haven't yet. And I think they're leaving that caveat open. Trump said 2 weeks for some sort of negotiated agreement where they avoid this, because I don't think Trump wants another Libya or another Iraq. Furthermore, there's always this other aspect of things where if we assume we do dodge this bullet for now, there is going to be another administration coming in when Trump's term ends. And it could easily be a Democratic administration, one that's not as favorable to Israel. All U.S. administrations generally are, but not as much as Trump, not as much willing to give the green light on everything, and might be more willing to negotiate with Iran in more favorable terms. I'm sure the Iranians have all of this in their calculus as well. So I don't think it's like they're just absolutely going to develop a nuclear weapon. There's no way around it.
Okay, so a couple things before we get into it, right? And I need to make a little money, so I'm going to read some of my super chats. Then I'm going to hand the mic to Noah because I think through this discussion, right, I'm wondering if you've been convinced about the immediacy of Iran being able to generate a nuke, and if your opinion has changed from there. And then we're going to give it to Counterpoints, and we're going to go from there. Okay, Cameraman 502 for $10. Thank you for the $10. Says, Iran is not trying to score a touchdown. They're just walking the ball down the field and are in the red zone. But they claim to stop trying when they were on their own 30-yard line. Thank you for the $10. $20 from Grassroots Hegemon to say, if the question is how far should we go to cripple Iran, the answer is yes. You don't create 60% enriched uranium for any reason beyond creating nuclear weapons. Worked with Westinghouse for a while, 5% is max for domestic. Thank you for the $20. $5 more from Cameraman 502 says, it is less difficult to enrich uranium from 60 to 90% than it is from natural uranium to 10%. U235. Thank you. $20 from Grassroots Hegemon. By the way, you don't have to get a great warhead and ideal enrichment. A shitty nuclear bomb is, believe it or not, still a fucking nuclear bomb. Just a 21 kiloton nuclear weapon instead of a 10 megaton nuclear weapon. Thank you for the $20. And then finally, $10 from Audacity to say, if I paid a hitman and they were successful in their task, would I be legally punished for it? Thank you for the $10. Okay, I'm going to give the mic to Noah, give his thoughts, and then we're going to go back to the panel at hand. Go ahead. You're muted.
Muted, brah.
On your end.
Hi, sorry.
It's fine.
Well, okay. First of all, I find Lycan's basic point unpersuasive because the idea that there's no evidence that Iran wants a nuclear bomb seems directly contradicted by the quotes that Pathfinder said from the IAEA. And, which are perfectly consistent with common sense, where there's no reason for Iran not to want a nuclear bomb as soon as it can. So the fact that Pathfinder's quote from the IAEA says that Iran's close to having a nuclear bomb seems consistent with what our prior should be, and from experts. And so I don't trust Tulsi Gabbard. You know, I trust Tulsi Gabbard about as far as I can throw her, which is not far because she's in another state. So anyway, I don't trust Tulsi Gabbard for shit, so I don't trust that. However, all this is to say that I'm still pretty unsure about two things. Number one, Counterpoints' argument that Iran is like days or weeks away from a nuclear bomb is surprise. I don't know if I believe that, especially now with Israel having blown up some of their stuff. You know, we don't really know how much Israel has been able to degrade that or will in the coming days. And so I think that, you know, I would not, I haven't yet been convinced that Iran, I am convinced that Iran wants a nuclear bomb, which makes sense because I would if I were them, but I'm convinced that they do. But then as for how imminent close they are to getting it, I am not yet convinced of that. And the second thing I'm not yet convinced of is whether or not Israel really needs American help to stop Iran from getting a nuclear bomb anytime soon, destroying their current program. So I say that I'm not ready to say like, yeah, let's go bomb them. I'm definitely not. However, I do think that the idea that Iran like is gonna just decide, oh, we don't want a nuke, is silly, and I don't buy it. So that's where I am right now.
Okay. Counterpoints, you've been wanting to get in for a little bit. I'm going to give you the mic and let you get in. Go ahead.
Yeah. So if we can, the thing that I've taken away so far that I'm going to add into my consideration after I leave the panel is whether or not Iran is more of a rational actor than we've given them credit for. However, I think there's plenty of there's plenty of evidence for. You're saying like, oh, this is this evidence of good faith, and this is this deal, and this is that deal, and here's where America's been bad, and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't change some facts on the ground, like Iran spending $1 billion a year on supporting terrorist orgs. Also, Iran attacking coalition forces during the Iraq War. Also, them supporting the Houthis, which are in Saudi Arabia's backdoor. And effectively, if you look at a map of where the world's petroleum is, it's like 1/3 in Venezuela, which is difficult to access because of the crude density, 1/3 in Saudi Arabia, and 1/3 in Iran. So Iran also supports, China and supports Russia. And so it's kind of the energy source of maybe not our enemies, but definitely our rivals. And Russia, in my opinion, is a kleptocratic, oligarchical, murderous shithole. Same thing with China, where they have created one of the most dystopian police states on the planet, where effectively you want some 1984 Blade Runner fucking bullshit. That's going to be China in 50 years. They're going to have all the technology in the world and all the capacity to suppress their dissidents, and we're not going to be able to stop them because they're going to be so economically powerful. They actually succeeded where like Nazi Germany failed. So that's going to be pretty fucked up. So I don't know how I feel about unratcheting the pressure on these people. One more point, and then I'll yield the floor, is basically like, we were told, let's not fuck with Syria because we're going to piss off Russia because they have a naval base in Tarsus. We were told, don't fuck with Ukraine. Ukraine's going to fall apart. The second that Russia sneezes, Ukraine is going to fall apart. We've been told that the Middle East and North Africa is going to be irreparable for generations. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Syria does have a coalition government that seems to be putting together a game plan in order to become economically and socially vibrant within the next few generations. In Iraq, like I said earlier, has Iraqi citizens who are basically saying like, yeah, I was alive during Saddam and this is better. So that's where I'm nowhere near as doomer-pilled as you, where interventionism is just some black pill that's going to destroy the world. I yield the floor.
You just reminded me, and I'll pass it to you right after this, but you reminded me where I was going at with the 2003 agreement. Is that the government of Iran, for all the repressive activities and all that, is again not a Saddam or Assadist type regime. Like, for instance, the guy who was able to actually furnish the offer in 2003, again, defunding of Hezbollah, dismantling of Hezbollah, Hamas, nuclear shit, all that. It was a radical reformer. And you do not get to run for office in Iran until you get approved by a fucking council, right? But the Ayatollah is a pragmatist, and the Ayatollah recognizes the will of the people and the betterment of the nation. So again, hey, we need economic help, or we need this or that or whatever. They take those actions, and they will allow different people, whether it's a radical reformer or a moderate conservative, et cetera, to come in. They will get elected, but they're not just like little puppets that get to do the dancing of the Ayatollah.
Who is this guy, by the way?
Where do you draw the line on that, though, when you have things like obviously Iranian dissidents getting executed, homosexuals getting executed,
and women getting executed? Again, I am sorry. I felt like I gave enough deference to the fact that there are civil and human rights issues within Iran. I did that. My point is,
but do you just let them function because they're pragmatists?
Well, first of all, yes, we don't go. If we want to go into every single country and fucking decapitate their governments because they do this shit, we got a lot of war ahead of us. Okay, so back to my point. We go is the question is not whether or not we should go in and save the fucking people of Iran. The question is whether or not that government can be worked with to de-escalate the situation. They have shown time and time again. In 2003, it was a fucking radical reformer. In 2015, it was a moderate conservative. In 2000 fucking whatever, one of the more recent dudes, he was literally elected as a signal that like, hey, despite you guys fucking us over on the JCPOA, despite the fact that the United States is the untrustworthy party in this fucking situation because of the history of the last 22 years, we are willing to again work with you. So yes, Iran has shown with that in allowing the IAEA fuckers in to come do their shit, their adherence to the fucking agreement of the JCPOA, they have shown time and time again they are willing to work with us. And there is no intelligence, there is no credible anything right now that says that they aren't willing to still do that.
Hold on.
And to that, I either yield the floor to him or the dude with the fucking...
Let me say.
Yeah, I do want to hear from Jay real quick, but like we keep talking about Iran as if they haven't been escalating tensions in the Middle East for my fucking lifetime, right? At least, right? They are pouring gas on all these fires to destabilize their enemies in the region because that's in their national interest.
Deter.
You don't think that they're doing that?
According to the 2019 Defense Department memo that was released, they fund proxies as a form of deterrence against Israeli aggression. Go fucking read it. I got it right here, and I'll point
what was October? How was that a defensive move against Israeli aggression? What were they trying to preempt?
Because Iran didn't plan October 7th.
Well, Hamas did.
Yeah, they just
financed an extension
to millions of tens of millions of dollars.
Hold on.
Iran planned October 7th.
First of all, we can discuss that if you want, but that's not relevant to the point that I was making. What I'm asking is, in what way was October 7th a defense? What were they trying to preempt with that?
In what way is that? In what way is that relevant?
You can't ask
that has nothing to do with Iran.
Or the other point.
Because his point, Whick's point, was that Iran and its proxies have been making offensive moves that destabilize the region. And
yes,
what I'm
you're
saying is
that they funded Hamas in order for October 7th to happen.
The region.
You're saying that
projecting power. They're projecting power throughout the region. That's the point. So while some of their proxies, Hamas in this case, might do
it's a
things
destabilizing
that
effect.
they don't
Their power projection is destabilizing.
It doesn't mean it's an offensive move. Projecting power is something that they do to shore up the region and use as a means of negotiating with Israel.
October 7th was a negotiating tactic?
No, you fucking idiot. They didn't plan
What's the point that you're making?
They didn't plan October 7th.
I understand that, but the point that Whick was making is very simple. The point that Whick was making was that Iran and its proxies caused destabilization in the region.
In the Middle East and Israel and the United States.
That's fine. But that's not the point.
You
need to address the claim on its merits. You need to address the claim that is being made.
Whick, was the point you were making? Was it that Iran is intentionally pouring gasoline to make sure the Middle East blows up? Was that the point you were making?
To destabilize their enemies, because of course that's what we do.
Again, destabilize
that's what they
and
do.
deter
That's what all major
things.
Powers try to do to
destabilize. Destabilize and deter are two different things, right?
Sometimes you can deter people from fucking with you if they recognize that if they do, you'll destabilize them. And this is what they've been doing. They give money to Hezbollah. Hold on, this is just true. Hold on, this is just a fact claim that you were making that you're just wrong on. There's fact. We know for a fact that they fund money into organizations, Hezbollah, Hamas, and other proxy things that act as destabilizing forces.
How is Israel
in the regions
destabilized?
They operate.
How is Israel
Do you not
destabilized?
think that Houthi has been a destabilizing force in Yemen?
Destabilize in what way? They don't fund these. First of all,
I can do this.
First of all, the fucking Houthis are doing all their bullshit to try to fucking court.
Hold on, Whick went
these are the Houthis are trying to do all their showboat shit so they can get funding from Iran and all that stuff. But Iran is funding these proxies in order to deter violence. Israel shoots rockets at fucking Iran. The Houthis shoot fucking rockets at Israel. 2006 validated. By the way, this has been going on
into the conversation. We can have another debate on this if you want, but I just want to make sure that like other people get the time. But yeah, I'll let Counterpoints deal with it.
If Iran wanted to destabilize Israel using a proxy, they would have attacked with Hezbollah, who is far more better armed than.
I don't know what you think had been happening since October 7th.
Prior to October 7th.
Also, Hezbollah is fucking is grown and has much more legitimacy in fucking Lebanon than they had before, and so they are.
Was that before or after they blew off their ass cheeks?
For which part? I'm sorry. The point is that they.
Anyway. Well, hold on. May I? Because I feel like we're coming at it from two different moral systems. Okay. So what's going on right now, as far as I can tell, is Lycan and Non-Smoker are evaluating the world stage, and they're looking at who is the worst actor. Non-Smoker explicitly has said that he believes the United States is the worst actor, therefore he wants to see their
the great Satan.
There you go. And then Lycan, while he hasn't said the U.S. is the great Satan, he has said that he's more evaluating it from like, I would say like a relatively like neutral perspective where he's trying to evaluate rights and wrongs, violence and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to tell you straight up. I am biased towards the United States. I am biased towards liberal democracy. I am biased towards republicanism and mixed economy capitalism. I just am. And not just that your calculation is different than mine, okay? And also I think it's different than Iran's as well, by the way. Because when it comes to the Houthis, they're not saying, oh, are the Houthis good or bad for Yemen? They're saying the Houthis are good for me. And so as a result, they're having the Houthis, who are causing the Red Sea crisis, which has caused billions of dollars of damage into the international commerce. And then not only that, they're also supporting Hezbollah. You said, oh, well, if Iran wanted civilians. When Bashar al-Assad is finally deposed, am I not supposed to cheer? Am I not supposed to say, fuck Russia, fuck Iran, fuck Hezbollah, fuck these fucks?
Hold on. So this is, you touched on, since you addressed this.
Can you guys just have a 1v1? Jesus Christ.
Sorry, I'll say this and then I will.
I was fine for like 10 minutes, bud.
No, but he's right. You and I have talked a lot. I've interrupted everyone a lot. So I'll make this one last point and then my friend to the south can, I don't know if I'm oriented the same way.
Okay. I'll let.
Hold on. No. Let me address what he's saying.
Yeah, address what he's saying, but I get to choose who talks next.
So, first is for the most part, you hit the nail on the head. Like I'm a huge fucking CIA shill. Like if we went to war with Russia, I might re-enlist, kind of thing, right? I am very much pro-American, but I do approach this from a pragmatic standpoint. I do think it's important to know your enemies. I think it's important to know the difference between a political militant terrorist group versus a fundamental Islamist global jihad kind of group, right? I think those are important. People tend to often think that if you're making that distinction, you're saying one is good and one is not. No, that's not how it fucking works, right? Iran, it does not have the ability to project power like Israel or Saudi Arabia in the region. Not like United States, who can threaten a fucking B-2 bomber dropping the mother of all bombs down your fucking throat, right? They do not have that capability. So they use these proxies to do that. My whole point earlier was that Iran is, and this is backed up again by United States intelligence reports and assessments, is that they do this not to wipe out Israel from the fucking face of the earth. They do it because it's the only way they have some deterrence force. And there is a historical documented precedent that they use it as a form of deterrence, not in order to cause chaos for Israel.
Okay. If you want me to believe that, they should probably change their state-run TV programming.
Yeah, I want to give I want to give the mic to Noah, and I want to give the mic to Jay, and then I want to hear from Non-Smoker, and we're gonna go from there. Go ahead. Again, you're muted.
Noah.
He's getting it.
I don't know that I have much more to say here. I mean, I think if I were in charge of the U.S. right now, I'd just monitor the situation, and I'd use no friend of Iran, but I'd just watch Israel take a crack at them and see what they do, and then if Israel fails, and if Israel's attack peters out and they fail to do big damage to the Iranian nuclear program or regime change them or whatever the hell they're trying to do, and then they stop, they're like, okay, guys, we give up, we failed, fuck, shoot, and then they go back, retreat back to Israel, and then Iran's like, we are mad that you tried to do that. Now we're going to get a nuke, then okay, we'd be like, okay, our turn. Don't do that. Maybe we could do that depending on what Iran says to us, whether, but if Iran is like, okay, guys, help, we agree to, please don't kill us all. We're going to give up all our nuclear weapons forever. And, here, blah, blah, blah. We'll give you all our enriched uranium. We'll mail it to your house. I tried that once and the FBI got me, but no. So then, no, wear a lead suit, folks. Anyway, no, if that happens, if Iran's like, okay, we give up, guys, then I'll be like, okay, cool, you give up. Then, you're not going to get nuclear bomb. I don't have to worry about this issue. And then if Iran is like, yes, we have emerged triumphant and resilient, and we are racing toward a nuclear bomb now, and now we're going to have one in a month, and then we're going to death to America, death to Israel, for real, guys, before it was just a slogan, and now we're coming for you, then I'll be like, well, guess not. And so then, bomb them.
Your enemies don't always telegraph their moves, though, Noah. That's what I would say to you, is they don't always go on state television and say, ha, 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 now that Israel has failed to kill us, I am going to create the death ray. I don't think that's a reasonable expectation of modern statecraft.
Anyway, regardless of the Iranian death ray, I mean, the Jewish space laser turned out to be real. They had a laser that could shoot into space. So...
And now,
no, I don't know. Iranian death ray. It could happen. I think we should just wait and see what happens with this war. I don't see that there's a pressing need to jump in, because if Iran was a month or a week or, 17 seconds from a nuclear bomb before, I doubt that they are now. I mean, their shit's all getting bombed. They have a lot more nuclear facilities than just this Fordow place that's deep underground. And Israel's bombing some of the other places, and Israel's killing the nuclear scientists and blah, blah. And so I don't feel like we're in imminent danger of Iran developing a nuclear bomb during this assault, at least not right now. So I think we should, there's not a lot of urgency here in terms of us joining the fray. So I wouldn't do it, but I do think the idea that Iran doesn't want a nuclear bomb is not credible. And I think that the idea that Iran only wants a nuclear bomb as a negotiating chip or bargaining chip, I'm like, well, okay, yeah, but that's okay. That's why we'd want them to, we don't want them to negotiate shit, because look at Putin with his nukes. Putin invades a country, and then anytime people are like, well, how about we resist this invasion? Everybody's like, no, you can't resist their invasion. They have nukes. They'll start World War III. You have to let them do whatever they want and rape your sister. And that's what all the chuds say about Russia. Right. And if Iran has nuclear bombs, you're going to hear the exact same fucking chud arguments with regards to Iran. So I don't feel like hearing those chud arguments with regards to every goddamn, evil empire out there in the world, that decides to conquer its neighbor, and then you can't do anything because they've got nukes, guys. And so I think we should probably, if we can, not let them get nukes, just as and not as a moral consideration, but as a pragmatic one.
Okay. Jay, go ahead, and then we can open this up again.
Sure. Well, I think that, listen, I hear what Lycan is saying, and I think that there are probably some elements that we disagree on, but overall, I understand the thrust of your argument, and I don't necessarily disagree with it. Again, I want to reiterate, I would much rather have negotiations. I would much rather have a deal. What I was saying earlier before there was some verbal explosion was that, from my perspective, Donald Trump is not a reliable negotiator, specifically with Iran, which I believe that there is precedent for that. And that this is, again, from my perspective, I could be wrong, but it seems to me that this is heading in a pretty negative direction, and that direction is ultimately war. And we're going to have to pick a side. And if it comes down to just the two of them, I'm going to choose the United States over Iran. So something that Non-Smoker said before the verbal explosion happened was that he said that he doesn't think that Trump is impossible to negotiate with regards to Iran. He didn't get a chance to expand on that. And if possible, I want to hear more about why you think that, because from my perspective, Donald Trump is a fucking garbage negotiator, just a total train wreck of a negotiator, especially with Iran. I mean, he's made it very clear multiple times. I mean, obviously he can fucking flip-flop however he wants, but he has been relatively consistent in saying, listen, my deal isn't a deal. My offer isn't an offer. It's my position. My position is you get no enrichment, you have no uranium, you have no nuclear, anything whatsoever. That's the fucking offer. And if you don't like it, you can kick rocks. That's obviously not a negotiation. So if you think that Trump is more amenable for negotiations than I think he is, I'm totally willing to hear that. But I don't understand how you can make that claim.
Non-smoker, can you elaborate for us, sir?
I mean, yeah, I had a totally other thing I wanted to say, but just on the
You can
Trump
get that
point,
too,
I mean,
right.
I think the point that I was trying to make is that Trump is hesitant in carrying out a strike because he doesn't want another Iraq and he doesn't want another Libya in Iran. He knows that and I think anybody with common sense would know that it's not going to end with one strike, one bunker busting bomb, destroying Fordo or any of these other nuclear enrichment sites and then dust our hands off. We're good there, right? I think it's a lot more complicated than that. My point, though, is that Trump is hesitating mostly because he thinks there's got to be some room for negotiation here. You're right that Trump is a flip-flopper, and that's, he would call himself a deal maker. Do I think he's a great politician or even a good, competent diplomat? No, I think he's a fucking idiot. But sometimes you can derp your way into things. Look at the North Korea thing, which, yeah, it hasn't had a lasting, ensured peace for the region, but it definitely, those diplomatic overtures to North Korea at the time were really meaningful. It provided some hope. It definitely, I would say put off the threat of like an imminent war, which seemed like we were headed towards in 2017. So I don't know. Does that answer the question? Do you want to go back and forth with that, or can I make?
Well,
the other
yeah.
point?
I'd like to talk about that a little bit because it does definitely address what I was saying. But I think that there are some differences with regards to these negotiations and what was going on in Korea at that time. For one, I think that Donald Trump is a lot more off the fucking handle in this term than he was in his first term, and I think that specifically that comes down to the people that are surrounding him. And there's a lot of conflicting information, but from what we understand, Donald Trump is literally getting counsel from some fucking moron general specifically because he's ripped. As far as we understand, credible reporting is saying that the only person that is giving Donald Trump serious counsel on how he should deal with Iran is a general that he likes because he's ripped and has the like aesthetic of a military guy. So I understand your point, and I don't think that it's entirely dismissible. However, I think history as well as current circumstance overwhelmingly supports the claim that Donald Trump has a position. His position is Iran can go fuck itself. And if Iran doesn't meet that criteria, then, it's Moab time. So I think that Donald Trump isn't actually trying to negotiate. I think you're right. I think he is hesitant to push the trigger because he doesn't want like a prolonged or a protracted conflict. But I don't think that he's being held back because of like some sagely wisdom or counsel on anybody's end or just in his own mind. I think he's just essentially kicking the can down the road. And that to me, it seems essentially inevitable that he's going to say fuck it and pull the trigger.
Although I think that kind of goes to non-smoker's point, though, which is effectively that like this hesitation is because he doesn't want to own a collapsed Iran. Because if you look at like all of the criticisms for the past 2 decades where neocons fucked up in Iraq, neocons fucked us up with this exorbitant budget, neocons got tens of thousands of your kids killed. And so as a result, if he drops a bomb in Iran, he has to own whatever happens next. So if he drops a bomb, destroys a nuclear capacity, awesome. But if he drops another bomb, kills the Ayatollah, destabilizes Iran, hundreds of thousands of dead people, random terrorist attacks in Europe and the United States in response, then he owns that shit too.
Well, I think they just bomb U.S. bases. If they just bomb U.S. bases and kill U.S. military personnel,
well, they hit the Iraq bases, and we didn't really give too much of a shit.
Can
I just respond?
Yeah, but I think non-smoker had another point he wanted to get to, and I want to make sure he gets that chance.
Yeah, just not to, I don't know, whatever, because we're going in different directions now, but I just wanted to mention about the proxies and this whole notion that Iran has destabilized the Middle East due to their support of their proxies. And I want to point something out. All of Iran's proxies developed independently of Iran. You know, the Houthis, for example, Ansar Allah were active in Yemen for years before the Iranians began supporting them. And they didn't even begin significant support until Saudi Arabia got involved in the Yemeni conflict. You know, all of these different proxies are definitely a means for Iran to project power. It's definitely meant as a deterrent. If it were meant to be an active, you know, threat, something that they wanted to attack Israel with, that's why I brought up Hezbollah before. They'd probably be better suited to do that, or just to attack Israel directly. I think that'd be much more effective if the goal was just destabilizing the region for the hell of it or whatever. I think, if anything, Iran is responding to an American foreign policy, as we saw with the Iraq War, to destabilize the region, and an Israeli foreign policy, which really started under Benjamin Netanyahu in the mid-90s, which started with the Clean Break Memo, which basically described, you know, the Middle East as this place where Israel had a lot of hostile neighbors, and the way to deal with them was not peace for land, you know, giving away land that the Israelis took, like the Golan Heights or anything like that. It was dealing with their enemies aggressively, putting them in their place. They called it peace for peace. And the people who helped Netanyahu draft that document, or drafted that document for him, some of them went on to become part of the Project for a New American Century, which was one of the most crucial neoconservative think tanks that went on to be the primary architects of the Iraq War. And also advocated heavily for intervention into Iran. Iran, I'm not saying they're like saints or good or whatever and perfect, but they're obviously responding to threats to their legitimacy. I mean, we haven't even talked about how the U.S. and Mossad support Baloch separatists in Iran, support the MEK with funding, training, all of that stuff. I mean, Iran has, you know, absolutely every reason to look at us as the destabilizing force in the region. I don't see how you couldn't see us as the destabilizing force in the region, us and Israel.
Yeah, if I may, the one of the things that I learned growing up, just I don't know, through trial and error, is that power abhors a vacuum, and so ultimately you kind of have to pick which hill you want to die on. And there's ideologies. You know, everybody remembers, what is it, the end of history. But there was another competing narrative, which was the clash of civilizations. And what I have found is that it seems like there's this like gentle push towards mixed economy capitalism and representative democracy and all that kind of crap. But then it's getting hollowed out by laissez-faire neoliberal economics. But then we still have our competitors on the world stage when you're talking about authoritarian communism in China. Even if you don't call it communism, that's what they call it. We have kleptocratic, corrupt oligarchy in Russia. And then we have theocratic Islam in different parts of the Middle East and North Africa. And so if we're left with those choices of ideology between mixed economy capitalism and liberal democracy, I'm picking mixed economy capitalism and liberal democracy every single time. And
Can I just make a point?
Sure.
Quick,
please.
I hate to cut you off, but like, so by that logic, we're sort of beholden to then topple every single autocracy on the planet
over the next millennia. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
But and how realistic do you think that is? I mean, like,
I think it's wholly realistic on a long enough time scale.
Well, the culmination of that strategy was the Iraq War. You know, that was the first domino to fall, and what happened? It led to
hold on, is Iraq better?
It was the first domino to fall. Authoritarian. It cemented
10 gift memberships from Audacity. Thank you for the 10 gift memberships on YouTube. Really appreciate you, sir.
Yeah, if I can respond.
Yeah, respond.
So here's the thing that I like about liberty is technically I could read the manuscripts of communists. I could read the manuscripts of Islamists. I could read the scripts of autocratic fascists. I can read all of their books as a liberal mixed economy capitalist enjoyer. I am not prohibited. And so as a result, I can review and consider each one of these ideologies, and I can choose which one I want to become, and I will be tolerated within a liberal society.
This is such a stupid argument. Do you think there's not censorship in liberal democracies? Do you think that the liberal democracies of the world, especially America, don't have like an ideological state apparatus or a media machine that promotes our values as absolutely true? They don't marginalize any sort of dissident views. They don't crack down on dissidents.
No, I love, but here's the thing. Like, you're saying
you're acting like in these other countries.
Marginalization. I view the marginalization of communists as good,
bro.
No, it's not just communists. Like during the 2000,
And socialist, and fascist,
no,
and
no,
Islamist.
it's not just that. Like during the invasion of Iraq, like people were saying like stupid shit like they fucking, you know, they hate us for our freedoms and shit like that, which is just fucking insane. But
If
also
you read
during
if you read Kutbub, however you spell it, he did hate us for our freedoms, and Osama bin Laden read and liked Kutbub.
that wasn't the fucking the MO for why they did that. But regardless,
authoritarians in the Soviet Union.
but
Sorry,
regardless
what's
of that,
We supported Osama bin Laden to fight authoritarians in the Soviet Union, in
And?
Afghanistan. So in the effort to stop authoritarianism through intervention, we've cemented and bolstered and given credence and trained and funded different kinds of authoritarianism.
Yes,
You've
there have
never
been
watched the
downsides
hit
to
2005 film.
It's been
Lord
way
of
more downsides.
War
Do you think
with
the world
Nicolas
is
Cage.
more or less authoritarian
Hold on,
in the last 30
hold on.
years?
I want you to hear what I'm saying, okay? You have never watched or appreciated the hit 2005 Nicolas Cage film Lord of War, in which there is an international arms dealer who supported both Iran and Iraq during the Iran-Iraq war. And whatever the main character is, Nick Cage walks up and he's like, how did you do that? Like, why did you do that or whatever? And he's like, did it ever appeal to you that I might want both sides to lose?
how'd that go for Iran?
Welcome
Iraq?
to real
Okay,
politics.
I feel like your cadence made that sound profound, but what you said is not profound at all. I don't understand where
What
you're going.
you said
I
is
do
not
want-
profound because you said, did you know that we supported bad guys to
Hold
fight
on.
other bad guys?
I
No
want to get
shit.
us.
Yeah,
I want to.
okay,
I want
can
to
I
take
just-
it back a little bit. I want to take it back.
That was a great line.
Can I- let
Your
me just- can I
cadence
just
made that sound
finish,
profound,
please?
but it was not
So-
profound.
Listen, just to put a
Finish,
cap on
yeah.
it, Wick, and I'll turn it over to you, dude. Here's my point. Your argument essentially is that we have this obligation to topple autocracy, authoritarianism, because liberal democracy is the better system. What I'm suggesting to you is our efforts to do that have actually bolstered authoritarianism in other parts of the world.
Lies.
Thus,
The world is more free than it was a
useless
century
fucking
ago.
game that's not working. It's a bad
I'm
strategy.
sorry. Where's the Soviet Union right now? What's
Where's
Vietnam?
Germany?
doing? What's China
Where's
doing?
Imperial
Probably more
Japan?
liberal under Gorbachev than Russia is under
What's
Putin.
Japan doing? What's Germany doing right now? Are they fascist? Are they imperial?
Dude, those were the end of World War II, and in that time, you've seen the rise of an authoritarian state in communist China, authoritarian state in Iran, authoritarian state in Russia, authoritarian state in Belarus, authoritarian state in Turkey. Need I go on?
Yeah, you need go on because all of those forces have to
Okay, I'll go
moderate
on.
and negotiate
Libya,
with liberal
Syria,
democracies and mixed economy capitalism.
Lebanon,
Just because you have an
Saudi
ahistorical
Arabia,
analysis
Yemen,
of authoritarianism over the past 100
Somalia,
years isn't my fucking fault.
Sudan, Mali, Burkina Faso.
Wait, yeah,
Niger.
like look at
You're
every
saying
no.
Brazil.
To your point,
Not
Connor.
everybody
Look at
becomes mixed economy
Venezuela.
capitalist and
No,
liberal
wait.
democratic overnight. Liberal democracy has
look
failed.
at
Are you
look
high?
at look at all the fucking times that we have installed someone. Fucking Pinochet, for instance. Like we install these people and they become fucking despots. The Shah of Iran. Do you know why the Ayatollah is here? Because we fucking backed the Shah and helped overthrow
Dude,
the fucking
America's
Iranian
option
government.
was
Was letting the
authoritarian.
Soviet Union go through
No,
Moscow in
no,
order to
the option,
nationalize
no,
petroleum.
the
becoming
no,
more
what? It's their
authoritarian.
petroleum.
Notice
It's
All that
their
would have
gas.
happened was everything that did happen 30 years earlier.
It was their gas to fucking
Your own
nationalize.
country is becoming more
Yeah,
authoritarian if you haven't noticed.
you're approaching it from a position of neutrality. I don't. We've already been over this.
Yeah, okay, well,
Your-
look at what
your
fucking happened.
country-
So everything that
your
people want to bitch about from 1979 through now with Iran is the result of what we fucking did.
Okay,
Becoming.
and it's
The question
better
becomes-
than having
More
Iran
authoritarian. You haven't noticed?
bolster the Soviet Union throughout the Cold War.
Iran already
It's a
gives cheap
better
gas to
thing.
China now.
The question becomes. Hold on.
Yeah, no shit. And China's a massive
Hold
fucking
on.
problem right now, specifically because of that reason, which is why Pathfinder and I are both okay with democratic regime change within Iran, because if you gut Iran, then you basically gut the energy support for one of the most dystopian, authoritarian piece of
Yeah,
shit
come on.
governments on the
Take
fucking
control of your
planet.
panel.
Okay.
What?
Okay. A moment. Dial it back because I have a couple questions. Okay.
I'm always angry, so this is.
We love the energy, or at least I love the energy, and my donos and stuff love the energy. I appreciate that. Thank you for the 20 gift memberships from Grassroots Hegemon, and thank you for the $10 from Audacity to say Conor using Lord of War instead of Charlie Wilson. I'm pulling Conor's historian card. Do it.
I thought he was going with Charlie Wilson too.
But my I guess the question that I have, right, isn't that is America always successful in its efforts to stop and to express its interest? Is America always acting within? Obviously, I think we could all agree America isn't some kind of benevolent actor. It has its own interests. It acts within those interests. Sometimes
it does evil shit.
Evil, right? We all agree? Anyone disagree?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes it does evil
Most
fucking
of the
shit.
But when
time.
we
Sometimes.
but when we look
those
at
interests overlap.
the overall
Most of
right
the time.
trajectory of the world since the end of World War
Before
II.
you finish, I'm going to say no, but go ahead.
Okay. So you say no. You don't agree?
No. Look at all right. So Vietnam, we go ahead and get involved in that conflict because of our involvement in Vietnam and what we
Wait,
did.
I didn't hear the question. Is he saying America is a net positive or
He's
net
saying that
negative?
overall it's a net
Question?
positive. He's saying it's a net positive.
Yeah, I'm saying it's absolutely net positive.
And I'm going to say it's a net negative. So the Khmer Rouge doesn't take over in
Crazy.
Cambodia if it wasn't for our actions in Vietnam. We tried to prevent domino theory from happening, but Laos ended up falling because of, again, we
What about South
helped
Korea?
further inflame this shit. Yes, this absolutely fucking happened.
We have to take moral responsibility for the Cambodian Khmer wiping out a quarter
you got pissy earlier about me not listening, Connor. No, you've got to listen. You got to listen. And then because of what happened after the fall of South Vietnam, there was the Asian shift that happened, and that Asian shift directly led to the China that we have to deal with today. Right?
Oh,
so,
shit.
Yes,
Mao was always fucking on the warpath.
It doesn't matter that he was on the warpath. It's about the economic power that he gained. It's about the countries that aligned with him.
I'm not done. You have a
I wasn't done. I wasn't done.
You have a fundamentally naive perspective on geopolitics, which is if the United States extricates itself from world events, all of our enemies become benevolent.
I didn't say that. I am pointing to explicit actions where we were involved and the impact.
Khmer was America's fault.
The fact that the Khmer Rouge took over as successfully as they did was America's fault.
You think
yes.
Mao was just going to sit back and let Southeast Asia not go communist?
That doesn't divorce it from the fact that we had an impact.
And they weren't going to get into power and they weren't going to do what they were going to do?
You know what? There's a whole lot of other shit that could have fucking happened. The point is that we had an impact on it. Again, the same way I said earlier that Iran was instrumental in fucking.
So don't put that blood on our fucking till.
He's saying that we attempted to stop, we killed a bunch of people and still failed.
Well, no,
so we should have gone harder.
Yes,
we should have.
I'm saying a few different things. I'm saying that America. I'm sorry, harder.
We were too busy dealing with leftist movements at home.
There are hundreds of thousands of tons of bombs that are still blowing people up today that are sitting in the fucking ground in Cambodia. I'm sorry, we tried really fucking hard.
What, Lycan? Compared to what?
They were not massacring the people as much as we were.
They probably would have just had a peaceful, mostly peaceful transition of power if it weren't for us.
Okay, so hold on.
The Khmer Rouge would have had a mostly peaceful transfer of power.
You need to shut up and you need to listen.
No, in Vietnam.
Okay,
no. The Khmer Rouge was propped up by the CIA.
You need to shut up and you need to listen for a minute. So what you're telling me, this is the narrative that you're telling me, okay, is when the Soviet Union came to power, they killed millions, if not tens of millions of people. Maoist China, when he came to power, killed tens of millions of people. But when Vietnam, communist Vietnam, came to power uncontested, they would not have killed millions of people, and the Cambodian Khmer would have handed out.
Your view of history is so fucking distorted and divorced from reality. It's insane.
It's not.
What do you say that's
the Soviet Union formed?
Okay, I'm going to answer it. I'm going to answer it.
Okay,
our bombing campaign.
Communists just went around massacring.
Our bombing campaign was a giant fucking promotion for the Khmer Rouge. It increased recruitment to the Khmer Rouge. It increased alignment of the people to the Khmer Rouge.
A fuck in that.
This is like is fucking
moral
10th grade global history.
Cambodian Khmer,
yes, it was an illegal bombing campaign. We shouldn't have been doing it.
Operations in order to propagandize the masses, and then they delete 25% of their population. And you're saying that's America's fault? That's
yes, we helped them take over. We helped them take over.
No.
Yes,
we
I'm sorry.
That's absolutely
true.
Wait,
so the crimes of Pinochet and every other fucking dictator we
hold on. Noah tried to speak, and he's been a very good boy today.
I just said this stream is making me more supportive of global thermonuclear war. It's the only answer.
You know what? I think so. Like, here's my point, and we are kind of running towards the end, and you guys can stay if you want for after panel, right? You're more than welcome, but you don't have to. I'm not Hamas. I won't hold you hostage, right? But thanks. My point here is that without America's intervention on the world stage, look at Serbia, right? Look at South Korea. Look at Iraq. And yeah, I'll say it. Iraq is better today than it was under Saddam Hussein. That's
okay.
us.
So what happened
That's
with
what we
Iraq? I
did.
think there's a big
We
gray.
have
When you say
people
they're better now,
let me
there's a
finish
big
my
gray
point.
area.
Let me finish my point, and then you can respond, I promise. Okay. I understand that not everything we do is successful. Not everything we do is good. But again, I think without the United States intervention on the world stage, that we would be living in dark times. You know what? You don't have to believe me. You can just wait, because we are losing influence across the world stage. We are losing power. We are losing the will to exercise what power we have. And we are going to be losing, unfortunately, influence to Russia and China in those regions. We're going to live in a multipolar world. And I'm going to, again, I will ask you to clip this, and in 10 years, if we still have internet and the ability to, live free, I want you to check it and see, is the world 10 years from now with less American influence better or worse than it is today? And my claim and my prophecy, if you will, it's going to be far, far worse. You are not going to like the end of liberal world order. Okay, now you can respond, and then we're going to get to closings. Go ahead.
In the 80s, we did something pretty noble in trying to help the people of Afghanistan. And while it was for our own motivations, which was to undermine communist influence within the region, at the end of the day, we were supporting a country that had been violently taken over by the communists. And as far as I'm concerned, did deserve liberty. And we did some pretty fucking cool shit. By the way, if you haven't seen Charlie Wilson's War, it's a great fucking thing to watch. But then after you're done with that, go ahead and read Ghost Wars and about our secret wars in Afghanistan, and then follow up with Directorate S, which covers the periods after 2001, 9/11. What happened is that after we did our cool, good shit, we were done. We were exhausted with the Cold War. We had done our stuff, and we fucking left. And despite people like Charlie Wilson and the CIA and everyone else saying, hey, by the way, all those fucking Wahhabists from Saudi Arabia that they let in, these are becoming a problem. And no one fucking did anything. When we said, hey, we need to give some support to these people so the crazies don't fucking take over, that became a problem. And then you get the fucking Taliban, and then you get Al-Qaeda. We fucked that up. And then we go into Afghanistan part 2, and then we screw it up again. We know Pakistan is fucking us over, but we're kind of hands tied in the region and whatnot. And we mismanaged that situation. We didn't have a clear, concise plan. We allowed Karzai to do stupid fucking shit, like not recognizing that tribal influence is actually pretty fucking significant to Afghan culture, and that's the way it needs to be implemented. So we fucked up again and again. And now, guess what? We have the Taliban back in power. We go into Iraq. You say Iraq is better now? Sure. If Iraqis are happier now, that is fucking great. What you do have to acknowledge, though, are all the people that fucking died in the process, all the terrorists we created in the process, the fact that ISIS then became a fucking problem. Who killed what? It doesn't matter that we killed them. The point is that it happened, and they're still in existence.
Fucking matters.
No, they're still in existence.
If 80 to 90% of the fucking people are jihadist militias wiping out fucking other jihadist militias, then don't put that fucking blood on our ledger.
It is on our ledger.
Making their own decisions.
We should not have been invaded. We created ISIS. You have to recognize this. We have no. We shouldn't have. He was a stabilizing force. It is widely recognized. Hey, guess what? Should the Taliban have been part of the 2001 government reconstruction in Afghanistan?
2001 government rebuild?
When we had the Bonn conference after the invasion of Afghanistan, should the Taliban have been involved in it?
No, probably not.
Exactly. The people that have your mindset. Exactly.
No, because you're not talking to a historical ignoramus. You're not talking to some fucking 50 IQ.
And why are you fucking going against everyone who was involved and said we fucked up by not having them involved? We fucked up by not having them involved. The people who held the Bonn conference said we fucked up by not having them involved. I'm not blowing smoke by the fuck. I know way too much about this shit for you to fucking say that. We should have had them involved. We could not properly reconstruct the government. We created an outsized fucking.
Stay for the after panel, but we do got to get to the closing. Stay for the after panel. I'll let you guys go, and you guys.
I need to eat dinner. Sorry.
Fair enough, but maybe we'll figure something out, right? Because obviously you got.
We can always fight about this later, Conor.
We got other things.
Sounds good.
I suddenly got really sleepy. I'm sorry.
I want to give it to we're gonna close out. So first of all, thank you all for coming to the show. Right? If you've enjoyed this show, for whatever reason, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I know some of you love the blood sports. Okay, I know some of you do. And hit the follow button if you're on Kick or you're on Twitch. I really appreciate it. It really helped me out. If you want to donate to the show, you absolutely can. I promise all of the money will go directly to me to fund various hobbies and activities that I enjoy, and it will be great. So yeah, consider gifting subs, gifting bits, super chatting, all those things very much help the show. But I want you to listen as these lovely individuals give closing statements and tell you where they can be found. I have links to all their stuff in my YouTube description, which you can click on. They have taken time out of their days to be here with us, to give us content, to reward them with follows or whatever. We're going to give it to Noah first, and then we're going to let Jay have the last word. Noah, closing thoughts. Go ahead.
Well, I'm still not sure what to do about all this. I have no confidence in the Trump administration to do the right thing. But I think that Trump will probably chicken out and not bomb Iran. So I think that whoever wants Trump to not bomb Iran is going to get their wish. And maybe Israel will take out their nuclear program or their regime anyway. But yeah, no, I didn't see like super compelling arguments on either side. I'm sure there's one right answer here, but I don't know what it is. So if you like a guy who's not scared to admit when he doesn't have a strong opinion about things, you should go to my blog, which is called No Opinion, for exactly this reason. NOAHPINION. And in some of the posts, I actually even do express an opinion, but not always. So, good luck to our wise policymakers who are going to definitely iron this one out. And, just like they've made the right choice on all the other disasters of the past decades. All right, anyway.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I hope you had fun. Thanks for being here. Check him out, gang. He's a good guy. Lycan.
Yes, first of all, Whick, thank you for holding this panel. It was very exciting. I haven't been in the game in a while. Good to be here. In the 50s, we overthrew the government because they wanted to privatize their own oil. The whole Iraqi myth that we're just there for oil. Well, we did that for Iran, and that got the people the Ayatollah because the Shah was a fucking shithead. It was brutal to his people and pretty fucking shitty. But hey, you know what? He had America interests at heart. Iran has shown a history of being able to come to the table diplomatically. They have made significant concessions in the past, and we have hand-waved them. Iran has no reason to trust the United States, and it is incumbent upon us to put a deal in front of them that is both reasonable to our interests, but also reasonable to theirs. It is my belief that we don't get to hand-wave 70 years of fucked up foreign policy towards Iran by dropping a fucking bomb down their throats. So at the end of the day, when you have people that are saying it's a nuclear issue, but then immediately that same day that the bombings are happening, that we must support Israel at all costs in everything they do when it comes to this, and saying that the people are crying for regime change, no, they are not. The people of Iran are far less like their government than the news headlines would have you believe. So do yourself a fucking favor. And don't read the headlines and stop there. Read the articles, read the news, go read a fucking book on the history of Iran. The government is not what you think it is, even as shitty as it fucking is. They can actually work with the United States at the end of the day. I don't plan to support any action that is going to get us back to OIF2, Electric Boogaloo, with just a new flag over the country as we start to install our own government. So at the end of the day, I'm all for intervention when it's justified. This is not justified, and we are being pulled into a war that we shouldn't be going to.
Okay, thank you for being here. You can check him out. I put his links in my description. Thank you. Counterpoints.
Yes. So I think that what frustrated me towards the end of the conversation, but obviously Lycan and I will carry this on at another time, is the fact that I think that if you look at our sins, and some of them are grievous, I could highlight some of them, for instance, in the 80s, when we provided weapons of mass destruction to Iraq in order to bomb the Iranians with VX and nerve gas and botulism that we actually sold them, which was part of our casus belli for the invasion of the 2000s. I don't think that if I was a CIA case officer, I would be able to go to sleep at night if I knew that I was VX gassing 12-year-old impressed child soldiers on the Iran-Iraq border. I don't think that I would be able to sleep with myself. That being said, I do think that power abhors a vacuum, and there are ideologies that are competing for the souls of the world. These are largely liberal democracy mixed with mixed economy capitalism. This is socialism and communism as another competitor. And then this is Islamism and fascism. So there's really like 4, maybe 5 ideologies that are competing for the souls of the world. I will pick mixed economy capitalism and liberalism every single time because I think it ultimately is the one. And I will put all of our sins against the sins of our rivals and competitors every single fucking day of the week. And I will argue about it in the most detailed and repulsive of historical terms, especially against communists. So if you liked anything that I had to say, if you like Warhammer, type in Counterpoints 40K. That's my Warhammer breakdown channel. It's moderately successful. If you like my political takes, type in Counterpoints Politics. You'll find a burgeoning YouTube channel with around 6K subs that I am live on Tuesdays, 5 hours a week, 9:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And then Monday through Friday, I'm live on something called the Valor Media Network. VALOR Media Common Spelling Network Common Spelling. Thank you.
No, thank you for being here. Check him out, gang. I have the links to his Counterpoints Politics channel, at least in my YouTube description. And if you want any of the other stuff, and I recommend the 40K stuff, honestly. He does a great job. You can check that out. Speaking of dirty communists, non-smoker.
Twitch.tv/non_smoker. For everybody in the audience who doesn't know my content, please come check me out. I also host a radio show every 2 weeks out of WUSB Stony Brook, which I'm sure Noah is sort of familiar with if he's even listening. We are out here in Stony Brook, Long Island, out east, doing a show every 2 weeks, 7 to 10 p.m. On all the stuff that I like to talk about, including this. To summarize my points, I don't think, for anyone in the audience who's not sure, I don't think anybody here made a good point or a good case for intervention. I think that it's pretty clear that it's not popular among Americans to go to wars that are not necessary. Neoconservatism, I thought, was falling out of favor after George W. Bush left office. That's kind of what got Obama elected, and I would argue what got Trump elected. But it seems to be rearing its ugly head once again, and there's probably a whole host of reasons for that. I think one of them is the growing amount of influence that weapons manufacturers, tech companies have over the government. I think that the neocon think tanks are still very active. Many of those people are still in politics, in and out of different administrations, etc. I do know that the American people do not like war, and yet the government continues to push for war. That, to me, is all the evidence I need to show you that your government doesn't fucking work for you. So you don't have to be a communist to acknowledge that. However, you might consider becoming a communist if you want to talk about doing something about it.
Okay, thank you for being here. Always appreciate your perspective. And yeah, go check him out, gang. And finally, last but certainly not least, Pathfinder J, please.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me on. I do wish that I was able to just elucidate my specific points a little bit better and in better detail. But ultimately, I do agree with pretty much everything that Counterpoints has said. I think a lot of what he said in his closing statement reflects exactly my position. I think that the planet is unquestionably interlocked in a global struggle over the forces of several ideologies. And I think that any day of the fucking week, I will always choose, as he says, a mixed market liberal democracy over any of the other options. As Counterpoints also said, I think that we can put the many, which there are many, the many crimes of the United States up against the even the more numerous crimes of these other ideologies that are struggling for life on the world stage right now. And I think that as the unipolar world starts to crack because of perspectives that are offered by people like Non-Smoker and to a lesser extent Lycan, I think that we're going to be seeing a lot more violence, and I think that ultimately we're going to have to make a lot more morally difficult and tough decisions in order to maintain our ideological supremacy, which I do believe is absolutely worth it. I am a small channel. I am growing. My channel is Pathfinder 415. If you like politics stuff, please, especially abundance-oriented stuff, that's what I talk a lot about, please give my channel a look and follow me on Twitter, or X, I guess, at PathfinderJ.
Do it. He was a great addition to the panel. I always like to try new people, small people, and so thank you for being here. I'm going to move all these people out, so I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye, folks.
See ya.
Boom,
Parasocial love. Bye for now.
boom. Boom. All gone. What do we think, gang? What do we think? Oh,